Today we are going to talk about what Oklahoma should do against Alabama to give itself an edge, and I think it's something they can really pull off that nobody else can. And all that's coming up after the bumper.
What do you mean you don't subscribe to my son's YouTube channel?
Mama, no!
Just snap the damn ball, RJ.
What's up, kid folk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. So it's OU related, college football related, sports related. We have a good time. And today I'm going to tell you what I think Oklahoma should do against Alabama to give itself an edge in a way that not a whole lot of other folks can do it. And it's really just simple, honestly. But first, shout out to Cleveland Browns fans who are experiencing what many Oklahoma fans have experienced since the arrival of Baker Mayfield to campus, showing up to Bob Stoops' door, walking on, earning the starting job, winning the Heisman Trophy, taking Oklahoma to the college football playoff. Look, the folks in Cleveland are now riding with Baker Mayfield in a very real way. He could actually get them to a winning record with one more W, and all he's done is put this team on its back. They fired their head coach, they fired their offensive coordinator, and they have a play caller now who's just like, yo, Baker, what do you want to run? Let's just make this your offense. And Freddie Kitchens is doing the right thing. They're in sync with each other. The play calling is symbiotic with what Baker Mayfield does. And if you let Baker just be himself, you'll see some outstanding throws to go along with pure sass. And I'm loving it. The pass he had to Jarvis Landry over his shoulder, nobody else could have made that throw. Just accuracy. And that's something you can't teach. That is that dude's superpower. But also, he's the same guy who's going to stare down Hugh Jackson after completing a long pass to David Njoku and then going to be like, I don't know what you're talking about. I love that about this guy. The next thing I want to talk about is Ben Powers and being pure offensive lineman. This is a dude who just arrived in Miami at a very nice hotel. He's going to be there all week. And what does he have to say? But I'm going to quote it. I'll be in my hotel room all week, not by the pool or the beach. I won't be out doing any of that mess. We're down here to win this football game. It's important to stress to all the players that that's the number one goal, and that's the number one reason we're down here. Sounds like Todd Powers' kid to me. That comes courtesy of Eric Bailey, who was down there on site and put the microphone to Ben Powers' face. But if they all have that attitude, yes, that's exactly what you need to win this football game against Nick Saban's best Alabama team. There's no getting around this. They are the number 2 team in scoring per game behind Oklahoma. They put up 47.5. Oklahoma puts up 49.5. And we all know that the big gap is between this dominant Alabama defense and Oklahoma's really bad defense. Now, I made a boo-boo where I said Oklahoma ranked 67th in total defense. That's not true. They did that last year. This year, it's 108. I was looking at the raw statistics. That's my bad. So it's worse than we thought, but it's also the same when you're talking about scoring because the defense has scored 14 points in the last 2 games, and when you needed them to shut people down, they did that. Heading into the fourth quarter against Texas, it was tied up at 27, and then they held Texas scoreless. Against West Virginia, did kind of the same thing. You had a 4-point lead heading into the fourth quarter, ended up winning by 3 at the final whistle. The defense just needs to stay in the game, right? Because they figured out how to close. And if you can have a lead, 10 points against Alabama, you might be able to win that game. People forget, Oklahoma had a 17-point lead against Georgia that it blew, but still, that was one of the better defenses in all of college football, let alone the SEC. And I think one way to help out the defense and the way that other folks just want to say that the offense scores too quickly is perhaps to do what Army and Citadel do. I was thinking about this because I watched the Army game like everybody else did, Army versus Houston, bowl game, where Army scored 70. Beat Houston like they stole something, 70-14, ran all over them. Kelvin Hopkins had a day, over 500 yards rushing. And I was thinking about this in that, what is it that Army does really well? Well, they run the flexbone. And they run the flexbone better than anybody else in the country. But how many college football teams run the flexbone? Not a lot. As a matter of fact, they're mostly service academies and what used to be Georgia Tech, but I'm pretty sure they're going to go away from that because Paul Johnson retired. Now, they might not, but the fact of the matter is, you don't see a lot of flexbone, which is kind of a wishbone concept, because it is built for teams that are undersized that can be disciplined. One of my favorite teams of all time are the Davis Wolves down there in Davis, Oklahoma. They run the wishbone, which, again, is basically the flexbone. And they're a bunch of 150-pound kids that don't look like they should beat any of these more athletic squads that they play against, but they're technically sound, they're disciplined, they don't beat themselves, and they can do that sleight of hand that comes along with running the flexbone triple option. And we saw Citadel pull that off against Alabama. Who is Citadel? They're a losing team in the FCS that Alabama scheduled as a cupcake. And then going into halftime, it was 10-10. So I went back and looked at the tape of that game where Alabama showed some weakness. And what it frankly was is they didn't know how to defend it. You could see guys that just went after the quarterback and left the pitch man wide open. You could also see Citadel run student body left or student body right and just say, we're going to throw more bodies at this side of the field than you have on this side of the field. And it worked for them. Now, Alabama is athletic and they're able to get after it, so it's going to be a little bit different. But you get the point here. Perhaps Oklahoma could put in some triple option and some flex bone to try to help themselves out and give themselves an edge, because I guarantee you, the moment you come out there and you line up in a flexbone, wishbone look, you are going to get a timeout out of Alabama. And then you're going to do it later in the game, and they're going to burn 2. And that might give you an edge that you need, where the defense ain't going to be able to give you the edge that you need to shut people down to win this football game in the Orange Bowl. All right, that's it for me. Deuces.